My wife made me choose, her or my dying mother. Chapter 1. The woman who raised me alone. I was raised by a woman who had nothing, but gave me everything. My mother was just 22 when my father died, 2 weeks before I was born. No family. No savings. No support. Just a tiny hospital bed, a newborn baby, and a world that didn't wait for broken hearts. But she held on. She worked multiple jobs, moved from one apartment to another more than 50 times in a decade, and somehow never let me feel the weight she carried. So when I finally made something of myself, got a stable job, a future, I made her a promise. She would never rent again. I bought her a house. It wasn't a favor. It was a lifelong vow coming true. My then girlfriend, now wife, didn't take it well. She said I was supposed to think of us first. But how could I do that when the only reason us even exists is because she, my mother, held me together when I should have fallen apart? I thought we moved past it. We got married, built a new home, laughed, traveled, and I did everything to be a good husband. I paid the bills, cooked dinner, wrote her love notes I'd hide around the house. She never knew what I liked to eat, but I always made sure to remember her favorites. I thought it was enough. Then 2 months ago my mother fell ill. Doctors didn't know what it was, but I could see her fading. The same woman who used to lift grocery bags in both hands now struggled to lift her own spoon. I asked my wife if my mother could move in temporarily so I could care for her closely. She said no. So I rented an apartment next door with my own money, visited every evening, spent weekends as a son and weekdays as a husband. But even that was too much. She said I was prioritizing my mother over the life we were building, that I was too attached, that I had to choose. I laughed at first, thinking it was a bad joke. But her eyes didn't laugh. She stared straight through me and said it again. Choose. Me, or your mother. I looked at her, at the woman I gave my heart to, and for the first time I wondered if she ever really saw the boy my mother raised, or just the man she wanted me to become. But I couldn't answer her then, because deep down, I already knew the choice I'd make, and she wouldn't like it. Chapter 2. The Ultimatum. I always thought love meant compromise, and I've compromised more times than I can count. She wanted me to cut back on calling my mom every day. I did. She said we needed more us time. I made it happen. I took her on trips, hid love notes, cooked her favorite dishes, paid every single bill so she could save her money. I even learned to enjoy her hobbies, even when she never showed up for mine. But now, she wanted me to compromise the one thing I never would. My mother. The woman who spent decades sacrificing for me was now too weak to stand on her own. And the woman I vowed to build a life with told me she couldn't accept the space I gave to care for her. The apartment next door wasn't enough. The balance I tried to maintain wasn't enough. I just feel like you're more emotionally married to your mother than to me, she said. The words didn't hurt. What hurt was the way she said them, like she had rehearsed them like they were facts. I asked her what she wanted me to do. I want you to choose, she repeated. Either you're building a life with me, or you're living in the past with your mother. I didn't respond. I just stared at the woman I thought I knew, wondering how someone who used to call my mom herself, could now act like she was some kind of intruder in our life. She wasn't just my wife's mother-in-law. She was her safe space, her comfort. The same woman she used to visit on her own, to talk about things she wouldn't even tell me. I remember one time my wife was sick with the flu. She refused to let me help her and went straight to my mom's place. She said only my mother had that kind of touch. And now, she wanted to push that same woman out of my life? No. Something didn't add up. That night, I asked her gently, is there something else going on? Something you're not saying? She shook her head. No, she said quickly. It's just, I feel like I come second. I asked again, slowly. Is there something you want to tell me, but don't know how? She looked at me, eyes narrowing. Stop deflecting. If you won't choose, then I'll make the choice easier for you. I said nothing, but my silence spoke volumes. I packed a bag and told her I'd stay at a hotel for a few days. And she just stood there, frozen, silent. No tears, no begging, no screaming, just silence. But in that silence, I could feel the end of something. I just didn't realize what had really ended until I saw her again the next morning. And everything I thought I knew shattered. Chapter 3. The Unspoken Truth. I didn't sleep that night. Not because the hotel bed was uncomfortable, but because something inside me had snapped. The woman I loved had turned into someone I didn't recognize. The next morning I went to visit my mother. I hadn't told her anything about the argument or the separation. She was too fragile. Her tests were still inconclusive, and every day felt heavier than the last. But as soon as she saw me, she knew something was wrong. She asked gently, "Did something happen with your wife?" I lied. I told her work was stressful, that I just needed space. She nodded, but I could see the concern in her eyes. And then she said something that made my chest tighten. "She didn't come see me yesterday." That stopped me cold. I hadn't even known my wife had been visiting her regularly. "She comes here every day," my mother said. "Brings flowers sometimes. Talks with me. She calls me Mom." My throat went dry. So the same woman who told me I was spending too much time with my mother was secretly doing the same? It didn't make sense. Why would she say one thing and do another? I went back home that afternoon. She was in the bathroom. Her eyes were red, her makeup smeared. She'd been crying for a long time. I helped her sit down. And that's when she broke. She collapsed into my arms and sobbed like I'd never seen before. And then, the truth came out. She wasn't angry that I was caring for my mother. She was jealous. Jealous of the love I had with her. The kind of love she never received. She told me she spent her whole life trying to be seen. That her mother once told her she should have never been born. That she was an accident her mom regretted not terminating. Her voice cracked when she said it. "I've always felt invisible, until your mom made me feel real." I just held her. I had no words. Because this wasn't about me anymore. This was about a broken little girl hiding inside the woman I married. And for the first time, I didn't feel anger. I felt heartbreak. But then she said something that froze me in place. "I didn't want you to care for her more than me, because I wanted to be the one she needed." The idea of my wife competing with a dying woman shattered something inside me. I didn't say anything. I just tucked her into bed. And when she fell asleep, I went to the guest room and stared at the ceiling, wondering if love was enough to heal something this deep. But I already knew the answer. Because the next day, I got a call from the hospital. And it changed everything. Chapter 4. The Baby I Never Met. I barely had time to process her confession when the phone rang. It was the hospital. My wife had collapsed at work. I rushed there with my heart in my throat. But when I arrived, she refused to see me. And the way she looked at me, like I was the enemy, I'd never seen that kind of hatred in her eyes. Not even during our worst fights. She wouldn't speak. Wouldn't let me near her. So I called her best friend, someone she trusts like a sister, and asked her to come. And then I called my mother. I didn't want to stress her out, but I was desperate for answers. That's when my mother, confused and hesitant, asked me something I'll never forget. She told me not to say anything, "But didn't she tell you about the baby?" I froze. "What baby?" She went quiet. My heart began to pound. "She told me she was pregnant," my mother whispered. "She said she wanted to surprise you, when the time was right." My knees buckled. I had to sit down. My wife was pregnant? I was going to be a father? And she didn't tell me? I stormed back into her hospital room. She wouldn't look at me. I whispered, "I know." She turned her face slowly. Her eyes were glassy and empty. "I lost it," she said flatly. "It's your fault." Her words sliced through me. "I didn't even know," I whispered. "How could it be my fault?" She didn't respond. Just turned away. I sat there numb. We had talked about kids before. I'd wanted them for years. She wanted to wait. I respected that. Never pressured her. And now, she had been carrying our child. Without telling me. She told my mother, but not me. And now she was blaming me for losing something I never had the chance to even hope for. When she was discharged, I took care of her. I did what any decent husband would do. Clean. Sat silently beside her when she couldn't speak. But the silence between us wasn't empty. It was filled with things we could never take back. I couldn't look at her the same way anymore. Not after she hid something so precious, and then used its loss as a weapon. One night I finally asked, "Why didn't you tell me?" Her voice was hollow. "I needed to know, if you could handle everything before I gave you everything. I was testing you." A test. She tested me, with our child's life on the line. And that's when I felt something break inside of me. Not just trust. Not just love. Something deeper. And no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't find the strength to forgive her. Chapter 5. Letters from the Ashes. After the miscarriage, the house became a tomb. Not of death, but of words never spoken. We stopped talking. Not out of anger, but because nothing we could say would change what we now knew about each other. I had married a woman who needed healing long before I ever entered her life. And she had married a man who, deep down, never let himself be fully known. I started seeing a therapist. He told me something I'll never forget. Don't make permanent decisions based on temporary emotions. So I waited. gave her space, took care of her in silence. I wasn't ready to leave her in pieces, even if she'd shattered me. Then one night I woke to whispers. She was talking to someone. Except no one was there. She thought she was still pregnant. She thought I was her father. She looked at me with terror in her eyes and begged me not to hurt her. That night I called for emergency help. And the woman I once knew was taken away, trembling and silent. They diagnosed her with borderline personality disorder. Possible delusional disorder. Her trauma ran deeper than anyone had imagined. She couldn't see her family, they made it worse. She didn't want to see me either. But she agreed to write letters. So I wrote. And she wrote back. For weeks. Then months. In those letters I saw glimpses of the woman I fell in love with. The fearless girl who built schools and villages, who gave without expecting anything back. The woman who once said she didn't believe in destiny, but she believed in us. She confessed to everything. The jealousy. The fear. The obsession with being loved like I loved my mother. The guilt. The shame. The grief. And finally, the truth. She didn't want to compete with my mother. She wanted to be my mother. Not literally, but in the way my mother made people feel safe. Because she had never felt safe. Not a single day of her life. She told me she didn't expect forgiveness. Only that I take care of myself now. That I live. And that if someday I was still willing to know her again, not as a wife but as a person trying to become whole, she would be there. So I offered something neither of us expected. Not a divorce. A separation. A year to breathe. To heal. To rediscover who we were outside the wreckage. She agreed. And I left the country with my mother, moved her to Germany for treatment. My foster brother came with us to help. Slowly my mother's health improved. And so did mine. I still write letters. She still replies. She visited my mother before we left. My mom hugged her and said something I'll never forget. You don't have to compete for my love. You already have it. That was the last time they saw each other. I don't know what the future holds. I'm not hoping for a fairy tale ending. But I do hope for peace. For both of us. And if I never get to be her husband again, I hope I get to be something gentler. A reminder that even in the darkest love stories, there's still room for growth. Even if all that remains are the letters we wrote in the ashes.